Ford Coppola was having a huge breakdown himself. Like, I know this guy is dying, but Ford Coppola, his money is on the line. His film is going to shit.
Everybody's having a breakdown left and right.
Yes, Marlon Brando is threatening to quit, and then his main actor has a heart attack. So he's
here.
So
people are going through shit, and then he's
in his robe in his
he's
mansion.
having his Godfather moment. Like, if you don't give me that money, I'm gonna quit.
I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse.
Hey pals, welcome to another episode of the Plot Pals podcast.
Today we are deep in the jungle of the mind, as well as the physical battle that is the War of Vietnam. Yeah. In the world of director Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now, a modern masterpiece, a classic masterpiece that to this day people are divisive on, whether they love it, whether they hate it, whether they're scared of it. It is talked about still to this day, and it was an absolute horror show to make. Wow. A truly chaotic experience.
I know, it went over budget, over schedule, over everything.
Dead bodies piling up, the film costing millions.
Actors having health issues.
So many. And the director having existential issues.
Wow. And then filming it amidst of the war in Vietnam, in the heart of Vietnam and Philippines.
Truly a one-of-a-kind film, a unique one that you won't see another one like. So Seriously. This is Maral, and I'm here with my pal Anna.
Hello.
And on this episode, we're discussing everything that went into the making of Apocalypse Now, its release, and its legacy to this day.
That's right. So we talked about Full Metal Jacket before in another episode, and saying that Kubrick didn't actually film it in Vietnam, and I was really shocked by that. But then this director, as crazy as he is and as courageous as he is, he went to Vietnam to film this. What a crazy man.
During the war.
Wow.
We're talking about Francis Ford Coppola, director of the Godfather films.
Right.
An absolute American cinematic legend. He went into the Philippines during the war to film this, and do you know what techniques he was using? He paid the military, the Philippines military, thousands of dollars every day so that they would give their helicopters to the shoot.
And they use so many helicopters.
Yeah,
like,
they're
unnecessary.
There's hundreds.
It's
like bugs.
A kid that loves helicopters so much, and it's like using it in every shot, in every frame. Like,
it makes sense to me because they paid so much money that I would put it in every shot. So he paid the money, and he was like, can we use your helicopters as long as you don't need them to fight the communists? And the helicopters would sometimes leave the set because there was communists to fight. They would go fight, and then Francis would be like, what the fuck? Like, my money is going down the drain, and there's a real war going on. The helicopters are needed.
This man, and he brought his whole family with him too. That's why they made this documentary as well that you recommended, and I watched, that his wife made. Mm-hmm. And it's just incredible, like how visionary he was, that he actually put everything, he put his own money. They couldn't obviously get money from these production companies, from these studios, because how are they going to risk it all? How are they going to support someone go into these countries and film it actually?
Mm-hmm. And make America look bad.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's not gonna happen. And then this guy put his own money, everything, with these expensive actors. Just the actors are so expensive. Mm-hmm. This guy came fresh out of Godfather. He's like, I'm gonna be here for 3 weeks. Every week I'm gonna get $1 million.
Wow, Marlon Brando did him dirty. Yeah,
he is so bad. I made you famous. I made you something. You were a nobody, and you came here, and I made you somebody, and now you're here.
Okay. To be fair, Marlon Brando was a huge star before that too. Yeah. But as he was getting older, he had a bad reputation. We know, he wasn't easy to work with. So his career was definitely revitalized after Godfather. You would think this man would have some respect for the director who brought him back up, but no. He said, "Give me $1 million a week," and then. Eventually, when Francis was struggling in the jungles to make this film, Marlon called up and said, I'm going to quit, and I'm not going to
What
give
a
you back the million.
bitch.
I'm keeping it for myself. Unless you film today. Wow. And during the shoot, he would keep sitting down with Frances and saying, I want to talk about the character. It doesn't make sense to me. And for weeks, they would sit down and talk. Meanwhile, every week, he's getting $1 million from Frances. And Frances is like, I don't need to discuss. I know what I'm doing. You want to discuss. And I have to pay you. And so the money kept going in Brando's pocket. And at the end, Frances found out Brando never even read the script and never even read the book Heart of Darkness.
Oh my
He
God.
was just sitting there and talking out of his ass.
Oh my God, I can't. Like, that guy is just too much.
Yeah.
I can't bear someone like this. What is stuck up like?
What's up
what
with
a
you?
jerk.
It makes sense if he would do that with anyone else because he's one of the biggest stars in America. But with Francis, you two
Yeah.
are like brothers.
But like,
He
I give
saved
this
you.
to him though. He's smart. He's a good businessman. It's like free money, you know. If it was me, I would have done the same thing. So I'm not judging. As you said, like, judging is not good, even in the
yes.
movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, if I was in that situation, I would be like, yeah, I don't think it's good. We could perfect it. I know your vision, director. Francis, I know what you want. And I think I didn't do that well. Or like, I have this idea. Let's go another week. I think 2 more weeks and it would be like the best Hollywood movie out there. Yeah, I would like hype the director up.
So smart. So actually, everything we said, we take it back.
Yeah.
We think he's a great businessman.
And it worked. Like, I love those shots actually in the shadows.
It's so mysterious. And you know, in Dune, there was this big guy.
Yeah, he reminded me of that.
Yes. That man was inspired by Colonel Kurtz.
No way. Really?
His whole look, the bald face.
His demeanor.
The
even.
demeanor, yeah. The fact that he's always in the water,
Godlike.
hidden, coming out, terrifying.
But you gotta give him this. He is so attractive, like in this movie, even though he's bald.
God.
And even though we don't see him that much, just his eyebrows. Oh my God.
He's fine.
Just the
You
eyebrows.
should
are
have
like-
seen him when he was young. He was a real
Oh.
lady killer.
Ooh, yeah.
He was amazing. But even in this film, he is so intoxicating.
right?
You can't take your eyes off of him.
I get
Every
these
word.
other people, the followers. I understand why they're like following his path, even though he's like an insane man. It's just because he has this aura. He has the aura.
And now, you know, we judge Brando, we say he did terrible things, but at the end of the day, what he added to the film and what the filmmakers
Right.
brought together through all this horror show of a film,
Yeah.
it actually ended up making over $100 million at the box office. So this giant gamble that Francis was playing with
That's
his
right.
personal money, that should have made him go bankrupt.
He took like the biggest risk, and obviously the reward, if any, is going to be huge.
Exactly. He actually says that some sentence just like this.
Yeah.
He says, my motto is use money audaciously to multiply it. So everyone was calling him insane because he's spending millions selling his house, putting his house mortgage towards this towards this film, and every day the budget is going higher and higher. It started out as 13 million, which he was already giving out of his own pocket. And then as the film progressed, no one was telling him what they're spending on. Everyone is going a high level, buying things, shipping it from different countries, bringing it in, hundreds of helicopters, of haze. And then Francis' pocket money is going away. At the end, he finds out this film cost $33 million.
Are you kidding? And it was all from his money?
It was a little bit from other companies, but they had a rule that said, like, if this film doesn't make a certain amount, then you have to give the money back.
Or
to us.
like, if it goes over this amount of budget, you have to pay it like yourself. Like, it's not our problem. They have some contract like this. They have to.
I know.
And then this guy goes over the limit, over the budget, everything.
It's completely insane, like Kurtz. Like, this is something Kurtz would have done.
Yes.
To imagine, he built, because of The Godfather, he was able to buy himself a home for his family, and he's throwing all of that away. $30 million is no joke. I lose
like,
$100.
divorce, baby, divorce. You gotta divorce. That woman is like crazy also. She's like making documentaries. Girl, go get your divorce papers. Like, you already made this man famous and made money. Like, why? Get
Why
half the
staying
money
with
and
him?
like...
We're learning about Anna's morals in this episode deeply.
we're learning about everybody's morals, actually. It's all about that. And as you compare the director to Colonel Kurtz, the wife also made the comparison as well. She was saying in the documentary that, yes, every day, like, it's about him also facing his fears, and Francis, like, facing his, like, these difficulties and, like, his ego and all these parts and his moralities, and having to, like, adjust as he's going. Something like that.
Truly.
So
Let us talk about what this movie is about, and then we'll talk about the comparison between Francis and Kurtz. This is the story of Captain Willard going deep into the jungles of the Cambodia River around that area and facing the real atrocities of war in the way for him to get to the end and kill one of his own army members because supposedly that man has gone insane. And this journey shows him, Willard, going deeper into losing his own sanity and becoming more similar to this insane man as he goes deeper into the jungle, to the point that by the end he can't even distinguish between himself and Kurtz, and he doesn't know what's right or wrong anymore. And this is amazing that it was exactly happening the same way to Francis, because his goal was to tell a story about the Vietnam War, which was a waste of a war. And it was terrible for America, was just stepping in, killing for no reason, wasting money, showing off.
one thing he said actually was that there were too many Americans there, and there were too much money and too much facilities, too much arms, and we just went insane. He's meaning Americans. Americans went insane with that much money, with all that facilities, with all those people that they had brought in, you know? You would go insane too.
Exactly. And he's referring not only to the American soldiers, but also to him and his crew who went in there to film this.
Wow.
And so he actually did the ultimate filmmaking tactic, or storytelling in general, is to live out the story that you're telling. So he went into the jungle with ultimate power, like a dictator, telling hundreds of people what to do, and with so much money of his own that he could do anything with. And this passion to tell a story the way he wants to.
Yeah.
And over the period of these 6-7 months, he was actually losing his mind. Like some quotes you hear from him from that time, they are actually terrifying. Like he's talking about, I'm thinking of shooting myself.
Oh, yeah.
This film is horrible. Why won't anyone believe me? I don't know what I'm doing. He was completely losing his mind while in the jungle. And he went through a metamorphosis. Everyone in the crew went through a metamorphosis. This is so unique of a film because of that.
Yeah, that's right. When I heard that in the documentary, I was shocked to my core. Like, he actually thought of that. He was a successful, like, hugely, like, insanely successful director already.
The most successful American director of the time. He had won, just himself, he'd won 5 Oscars the previous year.
You even said that the Jaws director was like, Steven was saying, after I watched Godfather, I was like, what am I even doing with my life? I shouldn't be a director.
Yeah.
Like, he was at that point. And then I also heard that he decided to do this because he wanted to face his fears. His fear was also always making a movie or like an art that is so huge that it's about a very important topic, but if I make it like a mellow kind of
pretentious
way.
or
Yeah, exactly. So his fear was that making something huge, a big topic that is so important to so many people, and making it so mellow and like really pretentious, as you said. And he did that. He faced his fear. He actually went and did that. Actually, there were so many people that wanted to make this book to this movie, but he was the one that actually took the step and did it. So the book is by
Joseph Conrad.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was going to be adapted by another of America's greatest filmmakers, Orson Welles. He, at the age of 26, made the greatest American film of all time, which was called Citizen Kane. And to this day, most directors watch that movie, and then they became fascinated with film. So he was going to direct it, but studios told him, this is going to go way over budget. This is going to go south fast. You can't. And at that time, there was no war even. Like, he wasn't trying to film it during the war. He was just trying to film it about the Congo River, this like African area. But they told him, no, no, no. And the only one who really could have done this is Francis, because he has this attitude towards filmmaking, which is, I will keep going, and if anybody's trying to stop me, I will just go past them as well. And if they're not giving me money, I'll use my own money. And if my actor dies, then I'll get another actor. And if I die, then this man will direct it. And if he dies, this man will direct it. And if he dies, my ghost will direct it. This is a quote that he has. So he's unbelievably unstoppable. Like, even in the face of fear, when he sits down with his wife and talks about, I want to shoot myself, the next day he goes back to work and films it anyway. So really, he's the only one who could have tackled the scale of this production.
Yeah. And we say he's insane, but like, what I've learned recently is that everybody is actually insane, because we are all deeply into our ego. And usually the ones that to us seem insane, they're the sane ones.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, it's like totally paradoxical, totally reverse. He is the sane one because he took the leap of faith, and he actually did what his truth was. Like, he showed and expressed his truth. So that's why I'm going to speak my truth too and say that this movie was torturous and I couldn't get over it. I paused so many times. It was a bumpy ride and I was dying. I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to shoot myself in the head.
Wow.
I wanted to just do anything. Like, the book was horrible. The movie was horrible. I just couldn't get over it.
Wow. And this is one reaction. And just before we get into the fighting segment of this podcast, for me, the experience was the first 3 minutes of the movie that I watched, I had to pause and say, okay, I understand. A good movie is a good movie, and this is a good movie. I see what they've done here. It's straight up a masterpiece, and I can't get enough. And so I sat down and then watched the other 3 hours, kind of just wide-eyed and so in shock at how they were pulling this off, because it shouldn't work. There is this guy who at the very beginning of the movie, like, is drinking and dancing weirdly and crying, and so why would we like him?
Yeah.
And then he goes through the rest of the story
actually
with
totally
no mission or anything.
He's actually totally unlikable. So imagine the main character of the movie is completely unlikable. How would that work? But it works.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it works for me because his unlikability is his realness. Who hasn't looked them in the mirror and said, look at how beautiful I really am, and who hasn't drank too much when they're feeling so upset, and who hasn't thought about the past and how what they did is affecting their present moment, and think about their wife and children, like, if you have those. And of course, who hasn't cried like the way he does, just sitting there and bawling his eyes out? Like, that's the story of my life. So I know exactly where he's coming from. And then when he hides all of that the next day, and when the soldiers come in, he's like, oh, what does it look like? I'm okay, of course. That's so real. Like, this is a man who can't show his real self to others.
That's right. I was so surprised because first when you're introduced to him, he's like this crazy guy that is like drinking and dancing so weirdly and smoking. And even some soldiers come and make him take shower, like they help him take shower. So you're like, this guy is totally useless, right? But the next day when he goes to those like commanders or like the generals, he's totally normal. He's like really strong. And when he's actually facing the soldiers, he is even more strong. He's so much stronger in front of the soldiers,
exactly,
who are lower than him.
This movie is totally about insanity, every minute of it. And if you think about it, the director probably made it because everyone was calling him insane, and he's wondering, like, what is the difference between sanity and insanity? So I'll make a whole movie about it. So in this movie, the guy who we start with is totally insane. Like, he's not a normal guy to be drinking so much, to be bleeding and then rubbing the blood on his face and crying in it. That's insane behavior. But compared to all these other people who are in the jungle, who are surfing, killing people, throwing cards at them, and then going to surf, and then absolutely for no reason at all following orders and doing the most horrific things. Like, those are the crazy ones compared to him. Now he's the normal one.
Yeah.
And then his whole mission, this one crazy man, his mission is to go kill another crazy man.
Yeah.
And who's to say that guy is crazy? Like, we every day we label things crazy.
Yeah.
And we really, like you said just now, like, we don't know what is crazy and what is sane. And we're just, based on our previous beliefs, we're calling one thing stupid and one thing to make sense.
That's
So
right.
it's amazing how this fucked up guy is actually the most normal out of everyone in this movie.
That's right. That's right. And even that scene that you say with his blood, he washed his face, that actually happened to the actor. That is his blood. He did that. So it's like, it's so integrated into their lives that the actors are just living it too. And I feel like it really affected their mental health as well. But anyway, like, this movie, the reason that I say it was like horrible, it's because of the experience. That's what it's supposed to make you feel like. I say, and I'm going to claim this, that if you really like this movie and say this is your favorite movie, like, this director is going to be disappointed in you. Because his mission, I think, was to make you feel that these things were horrible and these things shouldn't have happened. And you shouldn't have watched this movie, and you shouldn't have, like, the Americans shouldn't have experienced that. And the Vietnamese shouldn't have experienced that. This was all useless and it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
So
That was
like
exactly
the point
true,
of the-
because it starts with this man saying, I really want to get back into the jungle.
Yeah.
I was in the jungle, I didn't die, and now my life means nothing unless I go back in the war. And so you're kind of like really conflicted at this time. Like, what the fuck? Do you not know war is bad? But then the whole movie reaches the end, and this man achieves the impossible. So in a war that he wanted to fight, he has hundreds of the enemies bowing down to him and listening to what he says. So he's in the greatest position in his war. And it's at that moment that he realizes, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I don't know anything. These people are bowing down to me. I am literally a lost boy. Like, I'm ready to kill myself.
I'm a murderer too.
I'm a murderer. I'm a horrible person. You're bowing down to me. And why are you bowing down to me? Because I killed this other guy who was killing you guys, and now somebody else ordered to kill him. And we're all in this stupid cycle. Like, I hate the war. After that, he realized, like, I'm out of here forever. You could tell in his face.
Yes.
He's not going to fight anymore. So his arc was complete at that point, where he's going to live with PTSD, definitely, but at least he doesn't want to go back to the jungle again.
Actually, what I expected from the ending was that he becomes so drunk on power and he becomes the literal copy of the guy that he killed. Because it feels like the whole movie, everybody's setting him up to be the next murderer, to be the next Kurtz, you know? These people say that, Colonel Kurtz, why do you have to kill him? Because he killed someone. Right? So he's on this mission to go and kill him because this man killed somebody. And then he goes there, and after all this hardship and this odyssey and everything, he gets to that place and he goes and infiltrates into that system, into this guy's temple and everything. And then here the guy's like, yeah, kill me. And that's the ultimate punishment, because this man went practically insane because he killed someone, and then the cycle started, and it just so he's like kind of setting this man up to become him, to go through what he went through, the horror.
Exactly.
So that's what it is. It wasn't actually he didn't forgive him, and Kurtz didn't just set him free. He actually imprisoned him. He actually gave him the ultimate punishment that he could before dying. So
the good news is, though, he did leave. If he had stayed there, he would have had the exact same fate.
That's right. So I expected him to stay and be like, finally feel like, oh my God, finally I have power. I've been feeling powerless all my life. Now everybody's bowing down to me. The Americans, the Vietnamese, the Cambodians. So what was the reason that he left? He kind of like, at that moment, maybe he became conscious of what he did, or like...
It had been building up to that because he was on the side of Kurtz while he was coming up the river,
Yeah,
if you
right?
remember. He's reading, wow, this man went to Harvard, he
Yeah,
did this
yeah.
and that, so smart. But when he reached there and he saw these dead bodies, heads piled up, one man
hanging like
hanging
that,
like that.
naked.
And these people, it's like they have no brain. They're just following what he says.
Right.
And meanwhile, their brother is dead on the ground. And he was seeing the truth. Like, okay, this is not a great guy at all. I thought he was using new techniques to end the war. He's literally using his power to kill, to probably, like, if somebody doesn't bring him a good meal, he'll kill them. He told the photographer, if you take another photo of me, I will kill you.
Yeah.
So he's finally seeing even Kurtz, who I thought was the best of everyone here in this war, is also insane. And so why would I go take his place?
Dang. The whole time I was like building up this image of Kurtz in my mind as he was like reading about him, reading the researches about him. I was like, this guy is so great. Yeah, you have to be on his side. Like, you have to be like him too. Yeah. And we were talking about it yesterday, and you were like, this guy, the captain, is kind of so narcissistic that he's kind of seeing himself as this Kurtz. In his journal, he's so like always talking about himself. He always sees himself. He has this huge ego. Even when he's talking about Kurtz, it's because Kurtz is kind of like a parallel to himself. So you are like, yeah, this guy is narcissistic and everything, but Kurtz seems like a great man that could teach him some things. Or like, who is this Kurtz? This mystery is there until you actually get to see him in the last 45 minutes or something of the movie, at least in the version that I watched. And this man is in the shadows, and for minutes you don't see him at all. I think it's like 5-10 minutes that you don't see him. It's just like a game that this director is like playing with you, because this man is like washing his face.
That's terrifying. He's like the
shadows.
moon, you know, those
Yes!
tiny moons.
I was
So
like-
small, like
Do
his
you-
face is hidden.
That was like the first time I've seen somebody do this moon effect on a person. How is that possible?
And it's yellow too. It
Yeah.
looks exactly like it.
What is the significance or like the symbol that he was like trying to give?
Him being in the darkness is how no one knows who he is.
That's right.
And Heart of Darkness is a sentence they use a lot in the book. Of course, it's also the title of the book. But it means going deep into your own evil side and to
Right.
your own insanity and your desires, like evil desires. So that signifies that Kurtz is in the dark side. There's only a tiny slither of him that you can even see that remains human, but the rest is just a shadow of what
And you
it
know,
was.
the thing is, even the most evil people, they're going to have that light in them anyway. Like, every human has that light. They're born with it. They're never going to use it, even if, like, the darkness kind of, like, overshadows that. But it's like a cloud. The sun is never going to go away. So every human has that part. And I love the fact that they show it. Like, physically actually
exactly.
show this. That this man, even though he's totally in the dark, completely his face is in the dark, still there's a ray of light on him that is never going to go away. And throughout the movie, that light is never going to go away. Even if it's not on his face, it's somewhere on him. And that moon, usually people like symbolize women as moon and men as sun. Moon is always changing. Moon is like the changing cycles of like women always have this like cycle that is changing all the time, these like hormones and these emotions and everything. So this man is also on this verge of like his emotions are always like changing and like,
That's true.
right? It's like always the full moon and then again it starts over like that. So he is totally in his unconscious mind. He's completely in this realm of emotions. He's totally like drowned in there and is not even like it can't even come up anymore. So that's why I think that there's a moon-like thing.
And that's why this film won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography of the Year.
Oh, yeah, it was
So
the best.
truly, every shot is magical, and you
Yeah.
only realize how good it is when you compare it to how it looked on the set. So there's a documentary made by the director's wife of what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they would have, here are the helicopters and here are the men walking. I'm filming it with my camera. And then cut to what is in the film. And you just see the most gorgeous framing shots, that colors that are speaking to you. Forget the story. I mean, the story-wise, it's perfect. But just the way it looks and just the way they play with light and dark, that's why it won the best cinematography of the year at that time.
Wow. I mean,
Gorgeous.
you know, I said that this movie is like really horrific and it like really hard to watch. But the only reason that I kept watching it was because I didn't want to miss any cinematography. Like and the editing. Like it's so good. Like from the first moment you're like mind blown because there's some music going on and you see these beautiful palm trees. And then suddenly they just blow up. Like you didn't expect that at all. And it's such a beautiful scene even though it is tragic because these palm trees are all green and then suddenly there's this fire that is like going on in them and then the holy opacity. Like, you know, they use opacity so much. I don't know, probably that's the only editing thing they knew. I'm not blaming them, but it works so well. You just see this man's eyes and then like his face and then his cigar that's like burning and then the palm trees that are burning and the helicopters and the fan. And then after that, like that's like the first scene.
Yeah, that's just
That
the
hooks
first
you.
minute. And not only is it beautiful and there's a lot of opacity, but that's the power of filmmaking, which is like these random shots tell the story.
Right?
So it starts with the palm trees and they explode. So what is that? Here's what happened in Vietnam. These beautiful palm trees were just going under fire with these massive American bombs that were hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And for what reason? What was the point? This is nature that you were bombing. Like, what are you gaining from this? And the song that's playing is This Is the End. So now you're comparing that to what happened. Like, that was the end of humanity. Like, what are you doing there?
That's right.
And then this cuts into one man's face. Like, okay, this man, now we know he's reflecting on what we're seeing. That's what he sees because it opacities into his face.
That's right.
And then a helicopter passes, throwing more bombs. And this helicopter turns into the fan that's going around. So through these shots that shouldn't really have any connection to each other, it's just one man in a room and one bombing place, you get to realize here's a man who experienced what happened in Vietnam. Here's what happened in general with Americans doing so much damage.
Yeah.
And here's how he feels about it. Like he can't get it out of his mind, even in his bedroom when he is hearing the helicopters.
That's right.
What a masterpiece of filmmaking.
And you said that was all the editor's decision, right?
Yes, the opacity choices were all editor.
It's brilliant.
It's so brilliant. And even the whole scene wasn't written in the script like that. It was found in the editing room. So the bombing was from a way different shot.
Really? They just shot that like one day, you know. They had all these bombs on their hands and the palm trees.
Yeah,
like.
it's in a later scene. Like that is there, but this is a different camera angle.
Okay.
And then it was going to just start with the guy in his room, but they made it work with the music, with the jumping. And this editor, by the way, he's an absolute legend. Walter Murch. He edited all the Godfather movies, The Conversation, a lot of For Coppola movies.
Okay.
He's a philosopher in his own right. Like he has philosophies on life and on editing. And he did the absolute most for Apocalypse. Wow. So he was editing and doing the sound design for 2 whole years with his team.
Wow.
Every single day. And then in a book that he wrote about it, he was telling you, okay, this is all the work that I did. This is what it works out to in the end. So it's a 3-hour movie. We had this many thousands of hours of footage. So if I did know what I was doing right at the beginning and I was making the perfect cut each time, the calculation would be that I made 1 cut each working day.
Oh,
That's how many cuts are in the film compared to the footage. And
wow.
that's so amazing to me because even Walter Murch, he was so much experimenting that like he was cutting, pasting, going back, watching the footage, showing it, and so the 2 years that it took for him to edit it,
Yeah.
it works out to, it was as if he just made one cut and it was the right cut, then the film would have been done and he just left for the day.
Wow. And he calculated the whole thing like that
it's
at
so
the end.
cute.
It's just like,
Yeah, he's
Oh
like
my
thinking about what I did with the last 2 years of my life.
I know, right? It's just crazy because like we also edit every week and it's torture when you have to do it. Like
I know.
And then imagine his footage, like Francis's footage, all of those times.
I might be wrong about the number, but he said it's about 1 million feet of footage. I don't even know what that means, but I'll put it in perspective. While I was in film school, we would film 100 feet of footage to make a 2-minute film. So 100 feet, it would be like, it would take us 2 days to edit it, 100 feet.
How do you edit that anyway? But that's
There's a machine, yeah, you cut it, you put tape on
God.
it, connect 2 pieces. Terrible.
Wow.
And so that's 100 feet. Then you imagine 10 times what we were doing would be 1,000 feet. Then 10 times that would be 100,000. And then you just go million, 2 million, like keeps going. And he would just imagine how much he was paying for the film to develop it and shoot it. I was paying $100 for 100-foot film.
You did that?
Yeah, so now imagine 100 times a million.
And then that's like a great editor, so you have to like pay so much more, obviously.
Yes, I know.
And it's not even editing at this point. It's like, tailoring. Let me scissor
craft.
this. Yeah,
Yeah, for real.
And then
It's so much more challenging to edit because now we could just scroll like okay, let me just go 1 hour forward.
And we're like, oh my God, this is too much. My life is
I
over.
know.
I want to shoot myself.
And here's how Francis was shooting as well. He was filming everything with like 8 cameras with the big action scenes.
Oh, wait. So this guy was talking metaphorically? It was like, when I'm shooting myself, you meant just like shooting myself? Okay.
No, I doubt it.
This guy is a drama queen,
No. There was photos on set with him with a gun to his head.
Okay, there's proof.
Yeah.
Shoot me when I'm shooting myself.
Exactly. That's what they did.
Okay.
So for these action scenes, they couldn't, of course, do it too many times. So he would have 8 cameras set up, and he would play it out like a documentary. Like he would say, okay, everyone go up with your helicopters and start shooting, and you guys fall, like a huge choreography. And he would film this 10-minute section with 8 cameras. Wow. So after one take, for one shot, there would be 10,000 rolls of film or 1 hour of footage. How would you choose? So just one take would be 1 hour for the editor to watch. Are you kidding me? One take for one shot. And there's 100 shots.
That's
200,
every
500.
editor's nightmare.
Yeah.
Wow. And this guy is probably like really a perfectionist too, isn't he?
Yeah.
So like,
he could have, the only reason this got done is because he had Walter Murch. He's such an amazing editor. He's a kind person, positive. Like he is open to the footage. He wants there to be so much.
Yeah.
That's why this team worked. Like, that's insane. If I saw that much footage.
Not good enough if it took him 2 years. Like, hurry up, you lazy bum.
I actually can't believe he did 2
Yeah,
years.
right.
Because like I've had a documentary on my hands, digital, for like 3 years already, and it's like a short documentary. And this guy did everything. He did sound design too, and he won the Oscar for sound design.
Oh.
I'm glad.
Yes.
Imagine why the fuck is the editor doing the sound design? Like that's somebody else's job. But he did both.
Well, it includes the music as well, right? Or is it just like the recorded sound?
It's the recorded sound, but in this film, there's a lot of hypnotic recorded sound. It's not exactly just diegetic.
Mm-hmm. So this movie is actually like a trip. It's like an experience, mostly. You're not even supposed to follow like a plot. And even at times, okay, this is my experience, all right? I couldn't understand what they were saying, right?
I know.
Without subtitles, you can't understand.
Yeah, I had to put subtitles too.
Yeah, like this, they mumble, they talk sometimes quickly, sometimes like under their breath. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's not about what they say most of the times, even though like the journals are so important. They're so philosophical and they talk about the theme of the movie. But mostly it's very visual. It's a whole experience. It feels like you're on psychosis, and it's just like a movie that shows your consciousness, like makes you aware of what happened at a specific time, or like what humans could do. It's kind of like a movie that lights up a part of your being about what you are capable of doing, like a dark side of you. It lights up a dark side of you that you didn't know existed.
Definitely. And it is very much a psychedelic movie. That was one of the intents, to make it feel like a trip. It starts out with a breakdown, and then it goes into a new territory that you don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And it goes into meeting new people and keep seeing more terrible and unbelievable things. So, for example, one of the things that they see on the way is this land where everyone's fighting each other. There's bombs going off everywhere. And this commander goes in and he's like, who is your leading commander? And some guy's like, aren't you? And he's like, no, it's not me. And then he asks somebody else, like, who's your leading commander? And do you know who the commander is? And he says, yeah, I know.
It's me.
And he just walks away. Yeah.
Oh my God.
There is no commander. So he's even at that stage, it's like, okay, that first guy, 𝐀𝐩𝐸, who just wanted to surf so much, at least he was a commander. Like, even if he was just killing people unreasonably, at least he was leading them. Then it goes into a land where there's absolutely no commander. Then it goes into a land where this commander is like killing people, and the whole land is cannibals. So it just goes deeper into his psychosis, like you say. It's just like a trip.
At like one point of the movie, like usually like the last hour, it's like the other parts of the movie that you saw, everything that you saw, it was like a whole nother movie.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's just that it becomes more crazy, as you say, like as you go along, that at a point it's completely detached. And there's a point that when he kills that 𝐀𝐸𝐸, after that there's actually no sound whatsoever. Like at that point he is completely mute. It's just in space. It's like he doesn't know. He's numb. He's completely numb at that point. And whatever happened before, that was just like, yeah, it happened at that time. And it's like gone now. Everything's changed. He's changed. He's a changed man. So, yeah.
That's so magical. And that part is confusing because right before it is playing the song.
Oh, it's a beautiful song.
Yeah,
and there's like sacrifice, butchering.
Damn. And that song was playing at the beginning too. So it makes you think, okay, this is where the movie's ending. They're playing the same song that was in the beginning. But then, like you say, after that, it's like 10 minutes of silence. And you're just sitting there like, okay, is the movie over? Do I walk away? What is it? And it keeps going longer and longer until you're like, okay, I will think about the movie now. You're giving me the chance. So you start reflecting like, what are they trying to say with this silence? So magical.
That's one thing. Another thing I'd really want to talk about is like the characters that they chose. And I think it's like for a specific reason that they chose these characters with these demographics to accompany this captain on this trip. So there are 4 characters, I think, right? 4, 3. Yeah. One of them is the chief. One of them is a chef. And another is a 17-year-old boy. So like each one of them represent the demographic, like the average demographic of Americans probably that went to war, went to this war. I think that's like the case because there's this 17-year-old boy. I'm sure like these kind of
they were getting drafted.
Yeah, actually the actor was 14 years old.
I know.
Like,
and the actor was Lawrence Fishburne, which ended up becoming a huge actor himself. He was in the Matrix movies.
Whoa.
He was in Boys in the Hood.
Really?
Oh, like he was a huge part of Matrix. Like he's a meme. That's how big of a character.
I see. So, and he also went to Vietnam. Like they brought this. I don't know. They filmed this.
Oh yeah. I know.
Vietnam,
at
right?
14.
Why? Why would they do that? Anyway,
they didn't know. Apparently, he lied about his age to get the job.
Who doesn't do that?
Yeah.
Every actor is apparently so problematic in this movie. Like they're budding with this director. And then, okay, so there's that guy. There is a chef, which is a guy that is more emotional. No, he is more emotional.
Yeah, he is emotional, and
the chief or the chef. I don't know.
It just
chief is more emotional.
Chief is like Yeah, you're right. Because Chief is the leader, and he's tries to act like he's not emotional, but actually all his decisions are based on his emotions.
That's right.
But Chef, he is such an interesting guy because his whole life is so specific. He studied sauce making. He's a saucier. And now he's like in the jungle fighting tigers and putting his life on the line. And he's like, I did not sign up for this. I just wanted to go into the kitchen of the army. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. But it's crazy that, like,
and
that's specific.
all he sees everywhere that he goes is just food and, like, what materials he could make something out of. You know that scene where they find this Vietnamese boat? And they're like, okay, go, chef, go, and, like, scrutinize everything, like, find stuff. And he's like, this is rice. This is chicken. That's the best. Oh, my God.
So sad. And that's my favorite scene. I'm glad you brought it up.
It's my favorite, too. It's so good. Oh, my God.
That's funny.
And then they end up, like, killing those poor Vietnamese.
Wow.
Just because there was a puppy in there. The poor woman was just trying to save the puppy.
I know. This is the epitome of the American war, which is like you're entering yourself into the situation. You're not needed.
Yeah.
They're just going down the river. But it's a great way of showing it. Okay, like, can we talk about this?
Yeah.
This scene wasn't even in the script.
No way.
They fully made it on the scene, on the days.
It's my favorite scene in the movie.
Me too.
It's light, it's funny, and it has all the themes of it.
I'm scared. It's light?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Oh my God. I'm totally like fucking. Oh my God.
Maybe in your version they cut it.
No. They didn't. Okay. I'm talking about just because it made me laugh at the beginning.
Okay.
But, like, after, that's right, I totally forgot about that, even though I talked about it just now, you know. I forgot about it just because it's my favorite scene because everybody's showing their character and, like, at first it is funny. The chef is, like, pushed into this place. Everybody's yelling unnecessarily. Everybody's like, these people they don't even have any arms. They don't have anything. But these Americans are, like,
I know. And they show their papers
like,
even.
Yeah. They're stressing unnecessarily. They're shouting. Everybody's shouting. That's why I thought it was funny. But then after.
Exactly. It's so mismanaged. And, okay, here's what I love. This guy, Chief, he thinks he's so morally right in this situation.
Yes.
So he comes in like, go search them. Why are you not doing your job? Search every single box, like I tell you. And then while they're doing that, one guy accidentally shoots these people. And now Chief is like, okay, shoot, everybody shoot. We gotta get rid of all of them. They might have guns. Or like somebody just moved a little bit, one of the Vietnamese.
Yeah.
So Chief is
No, that woman was like trying to save the puppy.
Yeah,
so she moved towards that box and then one of them shoot him. And then the chief was like,
and Chief continues. And this is the horrible part. After they kill everyone for no reason, this woman is not dead yet. She is wounded. And the chief is like, okay, we got to take her to the hospital. Are you actually stupid? You're the one who shot at her. She was living her life. Now you're acting like you're such high moral ground. You're going to take her to the hospital. And he's like, this is the right thing to do. We got to take her. So what Willard does is he shoots her. And this is so mind-blowing because, yes, Willard became a murderer now, but do you understand the absurdity of you shooting these people and then saying, I'm going to take you to the hospital?
That's right.
You killed them. You ruined their life. Their life is over. Don't pretend. This is America. America's there like, oh, I'm saving this Vietnam people and I'm taking them to the hospital. I'm giving them this and that.
Yeah, and I'm saving them from communism and I'm doing that so I'm saving them. Meanwhile, I'm killing them to save them. Like, they don't know.
Exactly.
They don't realize what they're doing to themselves. So I have to be the one who teaches them and tells them, like,
that's
crazy.
That's so stupid. Wow.
It's insanely. Wow. Oh my God. I
don't
know.
That woman became sacrificed, like she was shot to death, so that we would get this lesson, like how absurd is it that now you're going to take her to the hospital. And then Willard says the best line, one of the best lines in the movie, which is, I told you not to stop. Now keep going. I love that line because, like, yes, motherfucker, I told you not to stop.
Yeah. And at that point, it seems like he's the cold-blooded one. He's the one that doesn't care, or like he has crossed the line and killed someone at this point. But actually, he's the most realistic one. He actually saved this woman because she was like struggling.
Yes, I know. And her whole family is dead now. What is she even gonna do?
Exactly.
And she's probably not gonna make it to the hospital. They're halfway in the river.
She's just gonna be tortured and suffer.
Exactly.
The whole way, so.
Exactly. And then they're gonna say we tried to save her, like we did the right thing.
That's right.
What a masterful scene.
There's a scene before that when they meet this general. 𝐀𝐩𝐸𝐤𝐸, yeah.
What a name.
I know, right? He was meant for this, yeah. He does that all the time. He's actually crazier than Kurt.
Yeah.
Anyway, we see like him killing everybody at every point, like helicopters are killing people. They're killing the surfers. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they're killing the surfers. They're killing little kids from their helicopters.
That's right. And then he's like, he killed like someone or like injured somebody or like his soldiers did. And he's like, yeah, go to the hospital. Go there. He's like to the Vietnamese.
Yeah, I know.
Take him there.
And then it's also really absurd. He's like, this man, I'll give him water. This Vietnamese guy is dying. He's like, anyone who dies in this way deserves my water bottle.
Oh God.
He's like about to give it. And then some guy tells him, their surfing is going well over there. And he just drops the water and walks away. Like, morally unbelievable.
Why are they surfing anyway?
I know. While they're surfing, bombs are being thrown. Like, who's throwing the bombs? Are you
I
throwing
guess
it?
like they're just so used to it. That's like every day, you know. It's every Tuesday that happens. You know. It's just a normal day.
Yeah.
So I better just go swimming and like surfing.
Exactly. That's
tan.
so absurd.
Literally, that guy tans.
Yeah.
You know, I said this as a joke, but that guy, the surfer in the boat, he literally is like, he's from LA too.
He had a great transformation. Yeah, he started as a total douchebag. He's tanning in the war. You're not even going to survive. Why are you tanning right now? And so later he stays alive, thankfully, through everything. And he sees the worst in humanity. He sees how his own captain could have become the next Kurtz. And he totally loses his mind. Like, he's not going to be okay once he goes back. But he's not going to be a vain surfer either.
He was so reserved after that, you know, when Captain pulled him and they went on the boat. It was totally different. He wasn't this outgoing, cool guy. At first, he's like this Ken, you know?
Yeah.
He's perfect. He always goes on the beach. He's tanning. He has a perfect body. He's so famous, apparently handsome.
Yeah.
But then, as you go along, you see his transformation, as you see.
So that actually completes all the characters who are in the boat.
That's right. And that's like the whole arc. Everybody has their own arc that they go through. And I love that because like it's not a one-dimensional kind of thing. They're not there just to be there.
Yeah, right.
Everybody has their own world.
Yeah, everybody has a full story, like how this kid, 17-year-old kid, gets killed while his mother's tape recorder is playing.
Right? That was so sad. It was so cruel. Like, they had this tragic death for every character almost.
Wow. And the most tragic for me was Chef, because he survived until the end. And he was just laying there like, not sure, am I dreaming? I've been in this boat for 8 hours and I'm still alive. He didn't know that's the last 8 hours of his life. And he was about to call an airstrike. He had all the power to end everything. And suddenly it turns around that his head is cut off and thrown. Like he's just a piece of the puzzle. He's a nobody, nothing. And he was my favorite character. He was the comic relief.
Yeah.
He was a cool guy. And they just kill him like that with no ending, nothing. That was so effective and horrible.
Weren't you just like, oh my God, that's horrific. Like, that was psychological torture, I think. Whoa.
I know.
And he didn't even look like himself. Obviously, like, that's...
Yeah, he looked so.
Because, like, everybody, that their head is cut off, like... Their face kind of changes kind of immediately. Oh, damn. Oh, that was horrific. And so that's one character. Another character that was so interesting to me was the photographer. Here's this guy that is so obsessed with this. He's like this typical cult follower or like this kind of guy that is
I'm a little man. I don't know anything. This man, he has enlarged my mind. He's like the river that flows.
And he reads poetry.
He reads poetry out loud. Like, okay, everyone does that.
Well, you know, the thing is, all the dictators, they read poetry. All dictators. Okay. They're into literature and poetry. Khamenei, the leader of Iran, he was into poetry. He would read poetry out loud. He would write poetry. He was a mystic guy. He was like one of these not spiritual, you know, these free-spirited guys that was like, no, I'm not going to be the leader. Don't do that. Like, don't put me. He was one of those guys. Like an everyday Joe. Then he became
everyday Jaffa.
So true. Yeah. And then he became this, like, Mussolini. Oh, whatever.
Damn, for real. So please stay away from poetry, especially don't read it out loud.
That's right. That's
don't write it, for God's sake.
I know. So it's because these people deal with these like cruelties and dark side of humans every day. That's like the relief. Poetry refines their soul, or so they believe.
And this photographer?
So this photographer believes is like really obsessed with this man. Like he doesn't have a thought of his own. It feels like he's a tape recorder. Like, I don't know. He's just repeating whatever he's been given. He's like a parrot. And at the same time, he also seems like, you know, when your mind is rambling sometimes, it's just thoughts after thoughts when it's stimulated like that. He feels like a mind that is stimulated all the time, just rambling and saying stupid thoughts out loud.
Right.
So he's like a modification, what do you call it? Like a physical manifestation of, a mind that is corrupted, a mind that is so deep in the ego.
And it's amazing that he's a photographer, because what you do as a photographer is find something else fascinating and go to capture it.
That's right.
So you almost like put yourself back. You don't matter. What is in front of you matters. And so he's like a little man. Yeah. He went and found this one dude, and he just started, like, he lived his whole life taking photos of his bald, beautiful head.
That's my subject forever. Yeah. I'm just going to take pictures of this guy. And I'm like, if I were to go to the war, I were like enlisted and I had to go, I would become a journalist. That's the best thing you could do, right?
Yeah, that's what Joker did in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, exactly. That's like so good. A photographer.
Well, like, okay, now that you say that, I'll bring something up. So there was an actor called Errol Flynn, very famous guy. He played Robin Hood. His son was also an actor, but at some point the son decided he's going to go become a photojournalist. So he went into the war to capture the photos of the journalist. And then
the journalist?
Yeah. And so he's in the jungle, and he finds out that there's some journalists that were captured in an area. So he goes to investigate and write about it, and then he's never seen again. So his life ends like, wow. I don't think it's like this movie where he goes and becomes a weirdo. I think they killed him.
Damn.
So, and then there was another guy who was a journalist, who was a photographer. And he went into the war with so many injuries. He comes back, a bullet in his head, arms, legs cut off, and everything. So it's not a great job.
Yeah, because like you don't have any guns or anything to defend yourself with. You're basically like a prey, just running around and capturing everything. Did you see those guys that were like filming for television?
Oh yes,
that was so funny.
Do you know the story?
No, what story?
The story is that was Francis Ford Coppola himself.
What?
Doing the directing. He's like, go, don't look at the camera, go.
I figured. Yeah. It kind of like sounded like it was a bit or like a funny thing, making fun of the director as well. It was so good. And the guy was just like staying.
They had the exact same thing in Full Metal Jacket. I love this. It shows the absurdity. Like, what the fuck are you doing filming us and trying to make us look cool or anything? Like, we're here literally killing, and you're like, don't look at the camera. Like, I'm gonna look at the camera if I want to. What are you saying? So that's so interesting that both directors decided to focus on this, like how the media will show the war.
It's so beautiful. But I think, like, if we want to compare, of course they're not comparable, but if we want to compare Full Metal Jacket to Apocalypse Now, I would say Apocalypse Now is obviously so much more realistic in terms of what could have gone on. in
That was
Vietnam War.
Francis's
Goal.
a goal, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I want to show war. I don't even want to make a movie.
That's why they even went to Vietnam. So
Yeah.
if it wasn't realistic, like it
Yeah.
failed so badly. But
Yeah.
so Kubrick, what do you like about like Full Metal Jacket or like this one? Which one do you like more? Or
So for both directors, interestingly enough, they say their movie is not about the war. It's about the human
Yeah.
condition.
I see.
So I love that. In Kubrick's case, it's about more duality of man, how you can you can go so crazy and you can also have morals and like balance these two.
That's right.
And it's also about how these corporate like these corporals will totally destroy you, like what you know. They'll brainwash you, send you into the war. And then this one, Apocalypse, is all about what is insane and what is normal, and how do you distinguish between the two. So it's like two different themes that they tackled, and because of that, it's two totally different structures.
Yeah.
For Full Metal Jacket, it's so structured. It's exactly one half here, one half there. It's funny. It's like, even if terrible things are happening, it's mostly light. You barely see any murder. And then this one is all about, like, I'll show you the worst things that you can imagine and the most absurd things that doesn't make sense even. And you tell me, is this insane? Because this is the truth. This is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a Kubrick version is more about the idea. He wanted to explore this idea of duality of man. And it happened to be in the setting of Vietnam War and this. But this man really wanted to like go deep and show exactly what happened here. And like in this situation, in Vietnam War, in this war, what humans are capable of. Because Vietnam War is a whole nother thing on its own. Like, we have war, we have Vietnam War. I don't even know, I'm talking like I'm a veteran. But I think so, because like it was such a useless war. It wasn't even supposed to be happening.
And it was such a long war.
Yeah.
In terms of what America has fought.
You know, I heard this story of Snoop Dogg's dad.
Okay.
That's already like, who went to Vietnam War, and he was like, black people actually, their average like survival in Vietnam as they're landing, like the minute they land is like 17 seconds.
No!
You know?
Oh, God!
You know what does that mean? That means that there are people that are shooting him from the front, right? The enemy. But there are white people that are against like prejudice against black people, and they're shooting from the back. So they've got like people shooting them stabbing them from the back and from the front.
What?
And he was like one of the people that survived. But that was the case. Like, it was even worse for black people that were there. And every American was forced to go to the war.
Yeah.
There were so many people apparently that got married, went to Canada or something, you know, just to escape. Yeah.
Exactly. It was a draft war, so you couldn't even get out of it.
Exactly. So, like, it was even crazy. And I was shocked when I heard this. Like, how is that even possible? Like, this chief was also black, or like that boy, 17-year-old boy.
There were so many black people fighting this war. And that was like part of, I guess, America's plan to be like, here you go, black people. Just go. We'll get rid of you.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, like, these people that go to war, they're like, their mind is just so like brainwashed, you know, and they don't, this is a free space for them. They could do anything. So they act on the most cruel thoughts that they have.
Yeah.
So if they had, at one point, they had a racist thought, they're going to act on it now that they have free will.
Exactly.
And there's like nobody monitoring them, right? So there's like, they have all the resources, they have all the money, support and everything.
And the gun in my hand that I could use.
Right. And everybody could go to this war after like, I don't know, a month of boot camp or like 2 weeks or something, that we saw in like Full Metal Jacket. So everybody goes there. And then nobody's managing. Everybody's on their own. You could do anything you want. You could just act on anything. And then your enemy is not even armed. They're just like...
They're just men, women, and children farming on their land.
Yeah. Like, wow. And then at the same time, like, the only barrier is the jungle. So you're fighting the jungle.
Yeah.
You know when you said at first that they're fighting, the Americans were fighting the nature. Why were they like blowing up the palm trees like that?
Right.
That was what this war was. It was actually Americans against nature. They were fighting the natural setting of that environment. That was the most difficult and challenging barrier they had.
Yeah, just like that amazing scene with the tiger where this man is trying to collect some mangoes and a tiger attacks him. That's so cool that they had this in the film. They could have easily said we don't need that scene, like we could just mention that there are tigers.
Yeah.
But they went into the actual effort.
That's right.
To show what it is like to fight the jungle. This is what Francis said about the movie. He said, "I will tell you from the most sincere depths of my heart, the film will not be good. This is a $20 million disaster. Why won't anyone believe me? I'm thinking of shooting myself." Like he was saying that kind of thing. And his wife was saying, this is so insane to me. His wife was saying, every day the project seemed to get bigger. Oh, isn't that the craziest thing? Like that's such a mind-boggling thing, because every day you're filming for 12 hours and the project is getting bigger, so you're not even making any progress. That's such a bad state to be in.
Wow. You know, like at every scene they were like, they didn't give up on blowing up things. Like at every frame there was like something blowing up, like
burning, yeah, something blowing up.
Some helicopters going around. Like they did not give up. And that means money. That's money blowing up, you know?
Yes, goddamn. There's a great example of this. So there's a scene that's taking place on a French plantation in Vietnam. These French people who never left, who are still fighting to keep their land. And this scene was cut from the version that mostly exists.
The version that I watched,
yes,
at least.
The theatrical release. And for this, they're sitting in a dinner table, this French family, eating with Willard. And Francis really wanted it to be perfectly like a French house from that time and the French meal that you can actually eat. And so
croissant and like...
Yeah, exactly. Just
that's
baguette
it.
and croissant mostly. And so they're eating that, and then Francis is walking around the set admiring. You guys did an amazing job. Look at this spoon. It flew in from Paris. And this box and that frame, like this looks incredible. He asked his production designer, how much is this costing us? And the production designer said, it's $75,000. And Francis said,
my heart.
Really? That's so good. That's amazing. This looks amazing to me.
That's what a rich person would say. Oh my God, that's some rich people shit.
$75,000 for just one scene already. Like
that doesn't even make it into...
Well, he didn't know it's not going to make it at that point, but he's like so impressed, like, wow, all of this $75,000? And the production designer said, no, that's just, I thought you meant how much did it cost to fly it into this place. That's not the price of the rent or anything else. Just flying it for this one day, $75,000.
What did he say?
Francis was losing his mind because no one was telling him the prices. So he was like, what? Okay, what? This is too much. I didn't know.
Didn't he have a producer or someone to like track the finances?
I know. What is this bro doing? He didn't have a producer. He had some associate producers, which is basically assistant. So what you do with an assistant is you tell them what to do. They don't have a brain. Like, they have a brain, but they're not allowed to use it. Like, they're just followers. Like, you go follow this thing and you do that.
A producer takes accountability. So if something goes wrong, you're like blaming it on him.
Exactly.
If you don't have a producer, what are you doing?
What are you doing in the jungle, Francis? That's a big mistake he made. And his money is on the line. Like, people, if they want a sandwich, they just get a sandwich. And because, like, he's paying for it, they would go to the intensest levels. Like, for his birthday, they were filming. And he was like, I just want a pastrami sandwich. Like, I really want that. Make it for me. And they flew in from America. They flew in hundreds of porks and beefs, and like they're just spending his bro's money. Like, that's so rude.
They're spending his money for his birthday.
Like, that's so bad. Like, he just wanted the sandwich.
They're like, oh, he's a rich guy. He can handle that. He's a big boy. It was after Godfather 2, so they were like, oh, this guy's packed. Nothing is gonna shake him.
And he had just bought a house that was 20 rooms. And it had a staff. So people had this idea of him, like he is so rich, like let's spend all his money. But he was having a horrible time. Like he was not happy at all.
I don't feel sorry.
No,
Not at all.
Yeah, we talked about Brando dropping out. So, goddamn, they were constructing the sets. You know, this wasn't in the jungle. Even the statues, those statues, those are not in the jungle. Those were completely constructed.
Really?
Kurtz's house. It looks like it's somewhere in the jungle.
Yeah.
But not
What
at
about
all.
the temple that Kurtz is in?
Yeah, no, that was constructed.
That's so beautiful.
That's so well done. All the houses, anything military, they made those. And then in the Philippines at the time was raining so much. Like it was raining so much that 200 people died in the country.
What?
Outside
How
of
could
the
you
film.
die from raining?
Like it would just
There was
flood the
tsunami.
house, and destroy the people who were on top of their roof to not drown.
Oh my god.
And-
And there was not a scene that was raining in the movie.
Yeah, there was very little that was raining. So what they had to do was shut off the production because everything that they built broke.
Oh no, really?
And they had to build it again. And you know what happened while they were building it too? This was truly not cool. 2 people died. 2 people died while they were building. What is this? Like the Egyptian times? Can't you use like safe methods? So they were using these like probably Filipino construction workers. And then this man who died while building this, they buried him there, and they buried him in his Apocalypse Now shirt. And that became his legacy.
Oh my
That's
god.
so horrific. Like,
That's
why?
like,
Why is it
that
not safe?
guy had a life of his own.
I know, and
He
he
had
just
a-
gave it up.
And you think that his glory is gonna be, oh yeah, he died in the way of making Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now, who? It's just a fucking fictional work.
That upsets
That
me
guy-
so much. Like,
that
that guy
guy's-
had a wife. That guy had a
that
kid.
had a real life. Do you think that's his ultimate, like...
Like, it's worth a piece of cellulite that he lost his life.
Wow.
How I'm sure this really, hurts anyone who's handling the situation. Like probably Francis is living with the guilt, but like you should be, because that was a real guy. Like that was a real person in existence, and you ended his life like without your paying attention, like probably not having a good manager there, not having doctors on set, like unsafe, making them people work fast.
And then probably there was no funeral. There was just...
I know, they literally buried him in his
Or, like,
Apocalypse
they-
Now shirt. So what funeral was there? Like they probably
yeah.
buried him right there.
cheap, like, let's get this printed and like distributed
I
among
know.
every Filipino actor. Everybody.
God.
So they
And-
will be proud they did something with their lives. They're in an American movie. Oh my god.
I know. And I mean, think about it. Like these kind of things happen
just-
every day.
That's why this movie has this weird vibe to it. It's haunted.
It's
fucking haunted. You
Yeah.
know? By the way, Martin Sheen also got a heart attack too.
So I was just gonna say.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Whoa, what? Holy Martin Sheen. So this man was smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day during this time, and he was also an alcoholic. And he was hired onto the set.
That shows.
That shows.
Like it's not a shocker at all.
I know. He was having a bad time. And he was not even supposed to be in this film.
Really?
Francis Ford Coppola had shot already 1 week of footage with a different actor, Harvey Keitel.
Okay.
And then one day he was sitting with his editors at the end of the week, and he was like, okay, what do you guys think?
And they're like,
No. And apparently Francis's wife walked out to put the kids to bed. When she came back in the room, Harvey was fired, and Francis didn't have a lead actor 1 week into his film. So he just immediately flew to
Oh
LA,
my
met with Martin in the airport, and was like, you want to be in this? Martin said, okay. Martin flew, and they were filming. But okay, just imagine, I mean, when we make movies, like it's a 2-day movie max. And just imagine if I told you, okay, let's go remake that. Like, let's go reshoot it.
Oh.
You'd be like, are you fucked? Like, I'll never go back there again. This is my
Right.
red, like, what's it called? This is my boundary. You
Yeah.
can't cross it. And these guys had already shot a week, and they were just going to
That's
go
right.
back to do it again. With that scale, too. With the explosions, with the bombs.
exactly.
Whoa. So this guy comes onto set. He's smoking 3 packs a day. He's so unsure of himself. He's with the greatest director and Marlon Brando there. So he's like even more unsure. And Ford Coppola is pushing him to his extreme limits. Like he can't even handle these. So, for example, on the scene where he's crying and cutting himself and everything. Like, as you said, he did actually punch the mirror, and he it's his blood that he's putting on himself. And he even asked Ford Coppola to, don't cut, let me go through this. Like, I need to go through this. I'm an alcoholic, I'm a smoker, I don't know what my life is. I feel exactly the same way as this guy. So he was having this emotional breakdown, and that was his birthday, by the way. That was his 36th birthday. And so the shooting is now
Happy
done.
birthday.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
Very
because
happy.
He had a huge breakdown, right? So it's really helpful for later. And so Francis's wife was like, why is Francis not coming out of the room? They finished filming 2 hours ago. So she goes into the room and she sees Francis and Martin are sitting down, and Martin can't move. He's just so drunk. He was drinking real alcohol too. And Martin is talking about life and his horrible like situation, and so drunk. And a nurse comes in to take him to the hospital, and the nurse is just holding his hand like, Martin, Jesus loves you. It's okay. Whoa. And Martin like had the most horrible day. Like, you imagine, you think actors are having a great time.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly. I do.
Oh, he was having the worst day. Like, he was going through that shit. And then a few weeks later, he just has a heart pain. And he's like, okay, it's probably the stress again. And so he just goes to sleep. And all night he can't sleep. He's having the heart pain. Ooh. In the morning, he can't even walk anymore. He just makes it to this public bus, gets on the bus, gets to the set, he falls onto the ground. And then some of the workers find him, some of the Filipino workers. And they're like, they run to the director and they're like, oh, look, your actor is here. And at this point, Ford Coppola was having a huge breakdown himself. Like, I know this guy is dying, but Ford Coppola, his money is on the line. His film is going to shit.
Everybody's having a breakdown left and right.
Yes, Marlon Brando is threatening to quit, and then his main actor has a heart attack. So he's
here. People are going through shit, and then
he's having his robe in his.
He's
mansion.
having his Godfather moment. Like, if you don't give me that money, I'm gonna quit.
I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. Yeah, for real. And so what happened was people would call their family back in LA and say the film is gonna shut down because the actor had a heart attack.
Oh wow!
And Francis sits everyone down and says, do not fucking tell anyone that this is happening, because as soon as my United Artists, the company that gave me money, hears this, they're going to shut us down. We're going to have to go back. I can't finish my movie. So if Martin dies, you don't say anything until I tell you that he died.
Okay.
He only said that at that point they knew he wasn't going to die. Like, they knew Martin was okay. But he was like, getting a point across.
Something
mostly.
like that could come out of this guy's mouth, actually.
Right.
You know, I feel like, okay, now I'm no psychologist or anything. This man, after Godfather, he was like on top of the mountain. Exactly. He was this huge guy. You know, Birdman we watched, right? Usually somebody that goes like to that highest point of their career, after that, they're just worried that they're never going to live up to what people expect of them.
Exactly. That's how he was feeling. Yeah.
So that's exactly what happens. And at the same time, he wants to challenge himself too. So instead of going towards something that is like a little bit safer, but also at the same time so artistic that he could express himself, he wants to challenge himself as well.
Yes. And add on top of that, he is also egotistical. He has made the greatest film of all time.
Yeah.
And he believes in himself some way.
He is like
listen to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's proud now. He's so proud, and he's not gonna listen to anybody else and what they say.
Yeah.
So
imagine at that moment,
vulnerable.
the life of Martin was not even important. What was important was finishing the film.
Yeah.
So he kind of regrets saying that these days.
You know, if it were us, we are so like, we don't have that much luck. It's God is gonna make an example of us. It's gonna be like, yeah, you thought you were somebody, now look at that. The fountain that goes up, it's always gonna come down. But no, these men, they're always like go through all this thing, and they're so proud, and they're always gonna be even more proud, and their ego is even gonna get huger.
Exactly. This guy, Ford Coppola, is just like Alexander, just like Napoleon, this dictator whose methods are unsound.
Yes.
Like, it could have easily gone wrong. it just happened that everything ended up working out. And like, okay,
I know.
2 people died. Wow. But like, it could have easily been 100 people died. It could have easily been this is like ruining everyone's life forever. His life including. But it just ended up working out. Like, how lucky.
Hey.
It shows at some points, it's not worth it to sacrifice especially people's health for a film. At the same time, though, this is one of my favorite movies. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of halfway.
That's the thing. Like, at the same time, you're like, okay, these people died and his methods were so unhumane. But he actually brought some awareness to what was happening, which was the American government did worse things.
That's true.
So if I could bring awareness at the cost of a few people losing.
Even though that sounds terrible, that's so true, because
That's better
American
than-
government was killing men, women, children, standing there for no reason with the helicopters without even hand-to-hand combat. Like,
That's right.
I'm in the air, I'm just going to shoot you. You all going to die.
And also the Americans putting their lives at danger as well. And then...
Yeah, for this, like, unreasonable war.
Exactly. So, okay, I guess I get it. One thing that I just keep hearing this past week and in the movie is, again, like this judgment thing, It's just that we can't judge neither ourselves nor others. It's just not worth it. It doesn't do anything, and it's still, the judgment is the ego. So, like,
Judgment doesn't do anything. That's so true.
Doesn't. So
We can sit here and put ourselves on the moral high ground and say
That's right.
France is fucked up and America fucked up. But that, again, doesn't add anything to fix the problem. Like, judging.
yeah. We could just witness and be aware of what we could do as humans, like what we're capable of. That's already so good. Because, like, you see what Kurtz did and these Americans did and the American government did. You can do that too. You
Yes.
and me and this girl too.
Yeah.
We all could do, even if we are, like, I don't know, powerless, even if we are like women that don't go to war, we are still capable of going to the bad side, to the dark side. Our hearts are capable of darkness.
Exactly. And this is something actually Kurt says that they cut out from the film.
Oh.
This is also something that Anna says all the time, so I'm a little worried.
Oh.
But Kurt says, you're only a full human once you accept that you have a dark side and you go and love that dark side and you say, I embrace you. Yeah, I even love you because you are part of who I am. So that's what comes with the judgment. Like, even the worst people, we can't judge because they just went towards their wrong side instead of staying with the light side. But you have that dark side in you as well.
That's right.
You're not super
The thing that I've realized is that everybody does have the dark side, and the ones that they say they don't have the dark side, they're just not conscious enough to know it. So it's not something to be proud of. If you say you're not a bad person, that just means you're not aware enough.
Yeah.
You're just not a conscious person. So go and work on that. Wake up. That's the first thing you have to do. Wake up to that part of you.
This is what I love, because if you say you're a bad person, like if you think you're a bad person, chances are you're a little bit better.
That's right.
Because you know you're bad. And if you say you're a crazy person, chances are you're a little bit more sane because you know that you're crazy. Like, no one is sane. Really.
That's right.
It's such a cool paradox.
And also at the same time, there's another thing that I think that everything is neutral. Like, the consciousness that doesn't judge is completely neutral to whatever happens. If somebody dies, it's like, okay, at least I experienced that. The consciousness is like, I experienced the life of a soldier. I went there and I lived through that horror. Now I am a little bit expanded. I know something more. I know that horror. If you live a life of a rich person, the consciousness is still like, okay, I experienced that too. I know what prosperity feels like. So basically, whatever you're going through or humans go through, how horrific it is, it's just our mind that decides whether it's negative or positive. Right. But consciousness doesn't care. Consciousness is like, I experienced that. That's a good day to be living. Yeah.
So amazing and such a great thing to think about.
Yeah, it makes everything so much more enjoyable.
It
and
gives such a new meaning to absolutely everything.
yeah, right. Like whatever you go through, even if like it's like the most horrific thing, it's just that at least it's something you're experiencing. It's something my consciousness is experiencing. It's just, you know,
So
learning
cool.
something new. Yeah. That's what it is. This movie is shaking you, teaching you, and it's just a new way.
Making you see a
Yeah.
new way, and also bringing out such conversations. Like, I have to tell you, Anna is not the biggest fan of this film, and
violence
yet,
in general.
yes.
Yeah.
But like, look at this conversation that it brought out of her. Like, it actually affected me in such a way that I will think about these. So even if
It
you
just
don't like a
bring-
film,
Yeah, there are so many themes that it just like brings this side of you that you already knew. It teaches you things that you already knew, you
Yeah.
know? It just awakens this part of you and awakens you to that dark side of yourself as well. So yeah, it's just a brilliant film in general. Like, it's so good. And as I said, like, I'm just not a fan of violence. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter who makes it.
right,
Yeah.
violence and horror. So please recommend if there's
any
any
horror
films you
movies.
have in mind. Okay,
Yeah.
let's be fair to Anna. Let's say psychological movies that are really sticking to your mind, like this one, and making you think about different topics in this earth and the human condition. Let us know, because we would love to watch it as well.
That's right. Any favorite movies that you have, I will go through that. Don't worry. Just recommend it to us.
And thank you so much for listening to this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you on the next one.